The states of New Mexico and Nevada both have a storied history that includes not only ancient sites and mysterious lost cultures, they both share a connection to high-level military operations, including Los Alamos, White Sands, and Area 51. Despite the fact that things like the Roswell incident, Area 51, and the atomic bomb are all relatively new occurrences, there seems to be a lot of evidence that suggests that these may be connected to a much older and hidden story that may reveal a new picture of what occurred here in the distant past. One site I had heard about for years but never took much interest in until seeing images of masonry walls that resembled those found in the rock wall is Chaco Canyon in western New Mexico. I had heard many tales in the past that this site was believed to have been constructed by extraterrestrials, but it wasn't until after visiting this massive site myself that I started to understand why. Sitting in a shallow canyon, 70 miles from the nearest town, accessible only by a 13-mile trek down a graded rock road at 15 miles per hour, Chaco Canyon is located in a desolate remote area that is difficult to reach without the proper vehicle. Chaco Canyon sits at an elevation of 6,200 feet and bakes in the summertime while freezing in the winter. Despite this fact, there is evidence of human occupation here going back to 2900 BC. In 200 AD, the first farmers settled here, and after 650 years of native occupation in roughly 850 AD, something occurred which radically altered the entire culture of the native peoples. This happened not only at Chaco Canyon, but all across the United States around the same time period. Agrarian cultures who had no knowledge or use of astronomical or architectural systems began building massive structures with precise alignments overnight, much in the same way Sumer did in ancient Mesopotamia. Chaco Canyon contains many alignments identically found in Moundville, Alabama, and the Serpent Mound in Ohio, including its alignment to Thuban and the Deneb Portal, as well as Cygnus. Strangely, just like Moundville, the people who are said to have constructed these sites labored for close to 300 years, apparently under the command of some higher force, before disappearing without a trace. This is the same as the ancient Sumerians, who also disappeared without a trace shortly after attaining high civilization almost overnight, and supposedly they were wiped out as the result of a nuclear cataclysm that the ancient Sumerian texts describe as the terror weapons. It became quite clear to me on my trek to the west that some cataclysm may have occurred here as well that turned this once fertile landscape into a barren desert wasteland, as evidence suggests happened in the ancient Middle East and Sumer as well as Egypt. Was this the real reason why nuclear weapons were being developed out here in the remote desert? Chaco Canyon also has many strange and unusual petroglyphs, which feature bizarre alien gods and spiral stargates, as well as many other creatures and figures. Many of the petroglyphs are off limits to the public and seem to indicate an arrival of these strange beings through a portal of some type, and the subsequent aftermath of that arrival. Whatever happened here, it most likely wasn't good, as indicated by the abrupt leaving behind of all possessions by the inhabitants, as well as many bodies found crushed between the Chaco walls, indicating a revolt of some kind took place. Chaco Canyon is so massive one actually gets to see very little of the entire complex, as many sites such as these seen here, as well as Fajada Butte, are off limits to the public. Chaco also connects with other sites as far as 30 miles away, including Mesa Verde, which we will cover in Volume 3. I hope to gain permission in the future to be able to film some of the off-limits areas for further films in this series. One perplexing element of Chaco is the tiny doors connecting the once 7-story high structures, each one in complete line of sight with the next one. Evidence of almost every religion known to man has been found here, and it's been called the Mecca of the Western world. Strangely, no burials have been found here whatsoever to this day, though one would think an area inhabited for such a long period of time would at least have one graveyard, as the 300-year undertaking must have yielded many casualties due to the treacherous task of shearing off the sandstone from the cliffs to build the massive complex. Here you can see where they sheared off the materials from the cliff overlooking Chaco. One place in Chaco, however, where there have been bodies found is here at the curiously titled Room 33, where a number of skeletons, all of the same genetic lineage and considered to be of high stature, were found to have all been killed violently in a ritualistic manner. Although Chaco does not lie on the 33rd degree parallel, it is interesting to consider that every state except Texas, which lies on the 33rd degree line, have their execution chambers directly on the 33rd degree line. And Room 33 at Chaco most certainly appears to have been a chamber of death. Why is Room 33 the only site found at Chaco to contain bodies? One idea may be that these were the outgoing elite rulers executed and buried within the structures because they were of the same lineage as the creators of Chaco, but this is speculation, the same as the mainstream academia viewpoint on Chaco is. What isn't speculation is that whoever gave the plan to the Chacoan people to build this massive complex They were master engineers. They knew how to combine the right materials for desired effect, as well as a knowledge of precise solar and lunar cycles, some of which happen over very long periods of time, and they are encoded into the architecture here at Chaco. These large trees, harvested from hundreds of miles away, were used to reinforce the sandstone bricks. Fajada Butte is by far the most striking and recognizable feature of the canyon. This massive rock formation that appears to have been carved at some point is off limits to the public and served as the observatory for the Chacoan civilization. There is also the remnant of a massive 95-meter-high ramp, which is 230 meters long and is still visible today. In 1977, an artist named Anna Sofaer discovered what is now known as the Sun Dagger site, located at the southeastern-facing cliff near the top of Fajada Butte. She noted 3 large stone slabs leaning against the cliff which channel light and shadow markings onto 2 spiral petroglyphs on the cliff wall. At about 11:15 a.m. on the summer solstice, a dagger-shaped light form pierces the larger of the 2 spirals. Similar sun daggers mark the winter solstices and equinoxes. At one extreme in the moon's 18 to 19-year cycle, a shadow bisects a larger spiral just as the moon rises, and at its other extreme, 9.5 years later, the shadow of the rising moon falls on the left edge of the larger spiral. There's also rumored to be a secret underground city inside Fajada Butte that was discovered in the late 1980s, around the time access to the mesa was made off limits. It seems that there is some connection to the arrival and departure windows that open up the dimensional gateway portals in the lunar and solar events, which are encoded into the Chaco Canyon structures. The entities depicted in the Chacoan petroglyphs are believed to be the ones who entered through the gateways, then set themselves up as gods to the local natives, enslaving them as their earthly servants, and forcing them to construct the massive complex honoring not only them, but the event and location of their arrival. Is this the reason why such great detail and attention were taken in the precise astronomical alignments at Chaco? It is possible that they commemorate not only an arrival, but also serve as a warning of a future return in the same location when the right alignments occur that facilitate the opening of the portal. I walked away from my journey to Chaco Canyon feeling changed, as if I had visited a place which made you feel a deep spiritual connection, as well as a deep feeling of woe for some tragic set of events that occurred here. I can see now why it has been compared to the holy place of Mecca and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This plaque shows beyond any shadow of a doubt that today's elite know full well the importance of the site, and it makes a lot of sense why they make it so difficult to get out to. The most important thing I walked away with, though, is that my hunch about this place was correct. I had originally wanted to see this place based on the similarities of the stonework to rock wall. Little did I know 2 key pieces of evidence would present themselves to us at Chaco Canyon. These boreholes, which have been found all over the structures at Chaco Canyon, look almost identical to boreholes found in many of the excavated rock wall stones, as well as stones I discovered in the Llano Uplift that we discussed in Volume 1. We also discussed these iron rings found in the rock wall, and as you can see here, we also discovered the identical thing in stones of the pueblos of Chaco Canyon. To my knowledge, this has never been discovered or talked about before, and it confirms my suspicions that the engineers responsible for Chaco Canyon may have been responsible for the rock wall and all other megalithic sites found all over the globe. Could the vast amount of time between the buildings of these structures have something to do with the arrival and departure windows found in the alignments of the sites? In every case, from Chaco to Rockwall, from Peru and Egypt to Moundville in Alabama, we see the same patterns. Massive structures built with knowledge beyond that of its human builders, and the mystery of how any of this information was shared amongst the workers without a written language. It seems as though these venerated rulers wanted no trace of themselves to be found, choosing only to let their presence be known through the sophisticated astronomical and architectural skills transmuted through stone by their human workers. Sumerian texts describe the genetic tinkering with humans by the Anunnaki to be a major violation of both their law and universal law, and the reason why the Great Flood was ordered to wipe mankind from the earth. This is also mirrored in the Bible's description of the Nephilim mating with the daughters of man, with their offspring being born into sin. The idea of non-involvement in the development of beings on different planes seems to be something that is a universal, unbreakable law, and it was hinted at in a major way in the 2013 film Star Trek Into Darkness, with the opening scenes taking place on a planet called Nibiru, and with the Enterprise crew being chased by primitive natives for an artifact they have taken from them. Spock warns Kirk that interfering with the development of a species on another planet is a violation of Starfleet rules. This is hammered home again in the film when Kirk is berated for allowing the primitive Nibiru people to see their starship, which results in them worshipping it. It seems that these ancient engineers have been visiting Earth periodically for years, setting themselves up as gods for periods of time until which they must return again to their point of origin. One more interesting point about Chaco Canyon is that the Navajo believe Chaco was ruled over by some shape-shifting deity who they claim was not only a snake and reptile-like in appearance, but is also responsible for the serpent mounds found in places such as Indiana and Ohio. The Navajo claim these are their ancestors. After leaving Chaco Canyon, we headed for Nevada to check out Lovelock Cave and the mysterious Pyramid Lake.